Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 18th day of February 2020. My name is Sam Gituku.
And my name is Zinzi Kibiku.
And just in time for news review, I want to introduce the panelists that are already in studio. That is Priscilla Nyokabi. She is a commissioner with the National Gender and Equality Commission.
Thank you.
Karibu sana and Happy New Year.
Asante.
We haven't seen you this year.
Happy New Year too.
All right. Gladys Shollei. She is the woman representative for us in Gishu. Yes. Welcome back. You've been here, so welcome back for you. And we want to begin by looking at some of the stories that are making headlines in the two dailies. So to begin with the Daily Nation, you said that the front story, the main story there is DCI tightens the news on Ruto's office. This is in as far as the fake 40 billion shilling arms tender is concerned. Explosive details emerge of how Polish firms directors fell for sophisticated criminal ring, also suspected to have used President Kenyatta's name to con businessman Merali on 10 million shilling of 10 million shillings last year. The story is on page 4 and 5. You can cruise over there to see the details that they give. MP Ruto staff has faced probe in 40 billion fake arms scandal. There's a vocal female Mount Kenya lawmaker and officials from the Department of Defense that are lined up for questioning. So this is in as far as the prosecution of former cabinet secretary in charge of sports, Rashid Echesa, who yesterday pleaded not guilty to corruption allegations, but the investigations would appear to be still going on. What do you have on the Standard in as far as this story is concerned?
Goodness, Sam. Like, hold on. Let me read for you something I've just come across on this article. Don't you not remember there was a time last year where a certain businessman got a call from the president on a business deal? So listen to this. What Mr. Koloskwi, I'm guessing the gentleman who is involved in this as the private buyer, I guess, says he did not know that he was dealing with a sophisticated criminal ring that police now believe was behind the gang that in February last year, a time like this, February last year, conned Samia Africa chairman of 10 million Kenyan shillings by pretending to be President Uhuru Kenyatta. Don't you not remember that story?
So it's an anniversary of sorts.
You know?
So Rosa Boy just joined us on set. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Rosa Boy from Kisumu County. All right, we'll be getting a mic on shortly, but we continue with what do you have on the Standard in as far as this story is concerned.
All right, so on the Standard newspaper, on this same story, right above there on page 6, DCI revisits Ruto office and DOD to bust the 39 billion Echesa network. So Egyptian Mamdom staffer Lofty, an arms dealer, walks out of the office of Deputy President at Harambee House Annex, accompanied by a police officer yesterday. That story can be found on page 6. Two foreigners take detectives to the office of Deputy President and Department of Defense quarters, places they claim they visited during negotiations to seal the fake arms deal. So before we come to that, let me also bring your attention to page 2, 3, and 4 of the Standard newspaper. It's quite big. Tullow oil. Kenya was supposed, Tullow oil was supposed to be an exporting country in 2020. Here's the thing: the company that promised Kenyans oil riches in its financial mess has already fired certain people. It has had to cut down operations, sacking staff, seeking a suitor for what remains of the shell. The government is stranded with a dead dream and empty coffers. All this started with Kibaki's regime when the announcement was made. Remember that Kenya, yes, that we have found oil.
All right. But we start with the story of the fake 40 billion arms scandal. We understand that there's a story here that Mr. Koloski had noticed something unusual at the DP's office. In his statement to the police, the CEO said he was surprised that General Juma, in quotes, was not dressed in military fatigue on the day the contract was supposed to be signed, despite the fact that it was a very important event. He was in a broken suit and did not have his aide or bodyguards in tow. So I want to begin with you, Honorable Priscilla. So when you listen or read this story of how fraudulent deal would be being signed, even taken to the office of the Deputy President. Of course, the Deputy President has come out and said that those people were only there for 23 minutes and they wanted to meet him, but he was not available. There was no appointment that had been booked. I mean, what are we dealing with as a country at such a time?
Yeah, that's the sadness about this whole deal. That, I mean, it's the stuff that you don't want to read in a newspaper. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. Power and money go together. So I'm also one of those people who are rooting for very deep investigations into this matter, just clarifying who was involved and who was not involved. and just clarifying how, and to what extent public offices are used for some of these things.
Right.
I'm happy that the Deputy President has come out to say that he wasn't involved, and I think that the investigations should then give us the real culprits. But it's the stuff you don't want to see of your own country, with international investors who ought to probably have invested in something much more useful for the people. Security at risk, security concerns now here. So I'm sad about the story. I'm hoping that we get to the root of it as fast as we can, and that the real culprits are then taken to court and investigated properly, so that we get a proper story. And also just a warning to all of the public offices that this is not how to conduct ourselves in public office.
Right.
That the public offices must really be used for the intents of Chapter 6. And I think that is why the BBI report goes back to cleaning our public offices in terms of ethics, in terms of bringing honor to the office that you hold. I think now that conversation has got to move there. Pick out any bad eggs, but make sure that the public offices are used for the right reasons.
And your point takes me to the next point. Honorable Rosa and Honorable Gladys Shollei, how is it, arms deal, military equipment, there's an entire CS who is in charge of that. We have defense and interior as well. How does an entire then CS of education, what position, what right does he have to do when it comes to dealing with arms, with military equipment?
Yeah, I think
at the cost of 40 billion Kenyan shillings.
Okay, first of all, we must start here. Those two purported business people, the Polish guys, I don't think are business people. They must be a group of ignorant crooks themselves and very greedy people. Because if I want to do business in a certain country, I do my research. I go find out, because every organization has, like we have Ken Invest, we have the Investment Promotion Center, we have Brand Kenya, we have the Ministry of Trade, we have the trade attaches in our various embassies abroad. So if I'm a serious business person and a business person who's above board, I would definitely go to those places, find out the information on how to undertake business in Kenya. I will even begin to know exactly which ministry deals with certain.
So what does a former CS of sports, even then when he was CS of sports, what business, what right does he have to be involved in military equipment?
Okay, I mean, the thing is, it could be that anybody who lives in Kenya could probably know about business opportunities existing in Kenya, and then probably link foreigners to it, or people that they want to go into business with. But I think we should start from the story that there is a problem with this particular group of people, because that's not how you do business as a business person. So in both cases, I think both people are cheating themselves, because you don't go and just say that, today I know that you can never sign a contract with the Deputy President's office that has to go to do with the Ministry of Interior. We know that the procurement under the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Defense are under a very specialized system because of the secrecy and some of the information that should not be divulged. So we know that. So these people, and I'm saying this is not the first time it's happening in Kenya. We had the Atur brothers, you remember?
Yes.
The Armenian brothers.
Yes. Again,
who are dealing with people who are said to be the wife of the then head of state and the daughter of the then head of state, allegedly. So this has happened before. When you tell me that a chairman, Merali of the Samia Group?
Yes, then last year.
I mean, how do you get called? That's what I don't understand. I get calls every single day. The reason why I don't pick numbers I don't even know, it's because most of the time it's people calling you, saying I'm the PA to so-and-so, I've been sent by so-and-so, or those emails we receive every day saying that there's a lot of money that needs a conduit to transfer it, or there's money that I want to donate to Uasin County. I get that on a daily basis. I mean, sometimes I've even gotten genuine, letters, and I usually tell my office, you know what, we're not responding to the email. If they are persistent, show up at that particular office and ask for that person and see if they exist. So there is certain caution that you must exercise as a serious business person and as anyone who conducts themselves.
All right, joining the conversation right now, we have Honorable Gladwell Cheriot, woman rep for Baringo. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us.
Thank you.
Honorable Rosa, your thoughts on this story before I come to Honorable Gladwell. Let me allow her to catch her breath.
First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I don't think we should trivialize this matter. This is a serious matter. And the onus is not on the Polish people who are being conned. The issue that Kenyans should be worried about is the possibilities of things that can happen in this country. And the ease with which these people can walk into the Deputy President's office and be entertained. You know, that shows that there's a lot more that goes in there. You know, the fact that somebody, by the position of a former CS, can actually, who is an ally, a political ally to the deputy president, can walk in with foreigners and be received and be entertained. It doesn't matter if it was for 23 minutes or for 5 minutes. A country can be brought down in just 2 seconds. So talking about 23 minutes is neither here nor there. But the fact that such deals can actually be taken to the doorstep of the deputy president should make Kenyans be scared.
But the deputy president has distanced himself from that meeting.
He did not.
Says there was no single appointment.
I have not said the deputy president was there. I said in his office. And we know that these people walked into his office and sat, according to him, for 23 minutes. You know, that alone should scare Kenyans, that deals to do with arms can actually find their way to the second highest office of this land. That is not a trivial matter. It is something that has to be looked into, and I think that there's more that meets the eye, and I hope that it will be uncovered.
Okay, Honorable Cheruiyot from Baringo. So we are here having this conversation, and of course she questions the credibility of even these business persons, and she raises the point of what can happen at such an office. Are you confident with the investigations, and do you think this was just conmen doing their dirty game at the wrong office?
Okay, first of all, Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.
Like she says. I want to really, first of all, if we say these were conmen and so forth, Echesa is a person we know, and he's been a dignitary in this country. It's a person who has just been a CS, a full CS, who was sacked. And the reason he was sacked must also contribute to what he's doing, such that we can't ignore and say these are just, we allege, yeah? Because if actually we could be dealing with unknown people, that's different. And you see, the presidency with the deputy president and the conmanship from the former CS, these are not two things that can work together. The friendship can continue, but the deals cannot be done in the office of the deputy president. And then I was putting it like this. It is true, I also have an office, however small it could be, that people cannot just get into my office and then they do their things there, then they get away with them. Then later on, it is being announced at the Continental office there, the Continental House where my office is, and then I'm like, I don't know. Because unless everybody in that office is not for me, so that I'm not even informed that there are people who came this type and they did this and that. Because in the office of the deputy president, it is an office which is secured. We have police officers there, intelligence people, and so forth. Right. So by the time these people go in and do the deals until they finish, and then we learn about it later on, I'm doubting what actually could have happened, because unless we are saying no one is actually informing the deputy president of anything that's happening in his office. Okay. Because you see, that's a big building which is manned 24/7.
But don't you not think that the lack of the DP knowing what's happening in his office on his side, you know, as a country, we're just coming from mourning the late president, our very second president, who had his pulse in the country. He knew everything that was happening. How much so now, your own office, people, or even physically speaking, a building that is close to you, how much more should you not be aware of the people that are coming in and out of your office as a man who holds the second seat in this country?
You know, it is true that he might not be there. You can't be there throughout. But the fact remains, you have your personal people who hang around that place, who have been given the duty to take care of your day in, day out duties. And in any anomaly, their duty is to inform you, to say, okay, Deputy President, today we saw something of this kind. Like if it is true that there are people who are putting on army uniforms and so forth to pretend that it's one of the big people, this is a very big issue. Because it would have been raised.
Honorable Priscilla, you have the advantage of working at Parliament as a member of Parliament, and now you're working with the state organ. How possible is it for influence, political influence, or be it a senior government official influence, to getting such kind of contracts? And compare that with the fairness that business is supposed to be conducted when you're tendering for public use.
Actually, you've gone to my thoughts exactly. I was just about to think about, what was that office doing in a procurement deal in the first place? Because that is not the place to go if you need procurement. Even if you are a serious business person, there would then be the right offices, the right places where you would deliver your contract and all that. So yeah, it is indeed true that there is a growing political influence in the tendering and procurement and acquisition of services. And I think that's what we need to deal with. If you look at the BBI report on the economy and how many more people need to be in the economy, when the president brought in the youth and women procurement opportunities, now those can't work for as long as very heavy and very political offices are involved in the procurement business. I think that's the question we need to deal with. Why would they have found it fit to go to the deputy president's office in the first place, where they were not supposed to go? Because if you're looking for a military tender, there must be where the military, conduct their business. There must be where the business people ought to have gone, as opposed to going to a political office for the purposes of political influence. I think that's why the DP's office is coming under scrutiny. How much leverage has it had on contracts and on tenders? And is that leverage and is that influence even right for a country like ours, where we need to spread opportunities and to use tenders and procurement for government for the purposes of employment in our country? We are discussing Polish officials here with 39 billion. Even if this deal were true, this would still be wrong. Why would Polish business people be the ones that take away 39 billion from our economy? We have our own businessmen here. I mean, and unbundling of contracts. In fact, a contract worth 39 billion is not even right for this economy. We ought to be unbundling. I think 5 billion really ought to be as maximum. We are so many of us, 47 million Kenyans. If I want to share the few contracts there are, it cannot be possible for one person to have 39 billion. So there's a lot of wrong in that whole deal, other than the crime. There's also a lot of other wrong around shared prosperity. There's also a lot of wrong around the political influence. There's a lot of wrong around why foreign nationals and not Kenyans. The former CS himself, he's not known as a military person. He has no particular expertise in the area. What was he also doing in that whole
The fact that we haven't heard from the CS of Defense or Interior about this story.
I think anybody who knows how con people or some of the quack international traders behave, this is the way it happens. Sometimes you impress them and tell them, I know the deputy president. And we have known people, remember there was Mathenga who took a picture with the Kibaki. He was behind Kibaki, and he wasn't really one of the security guys, but he took a picture and was able to use that picture to show that he has influence over State House. So we have known historically and typically that is the modus operandi of people who want to get involved in fake deals or so on, to be able to utilize an office. I'm not saying I know for a fact what transpired, but what has been confirmed to us from the office of the deputy president is that these people did indeed go to the offices. They have CCTV footage, which should be, at least gives me some comfort, because now I know that nothing can happen at the deputy president's office without it being known, because it's manned. People check in, you go in, you are told to wait in a waiting room, they find out if you have an appointment. Usually I know that they wouldn't find out from the, you would, okay, first of all, let's break it down so that we don't make a mountain out of a molehill. One, remember the office of the office of the deputy president not only has the deputy president's offices, it has offices of other departments. There is special programs, there is so on. So when somebody goes in there, you can be going there to see special programs, in which case the deputy president would not have knowledge, his direct office would not have knowledge of you going to that office. But then, let's assume these people went to that office, they were later found, it has been confirmed, they were later found not to have any appointment at all, and then they had to leave, and they did leave. If the former cabinet secretary was trying to use that as to impress the Polish and show them that I know the deputy president, therefore I actually have the power to be able to get you this contract, that could be. Hold on, let me finish first.
Finish.
Because you see, I'm just making my own analysis of everything.
Just burning.
Just finish.
Considering that we haven't got the full report from the DCI. I would like the DCI to tell us exactly who was fronting, who was trying to con who. Were the Polish trying to con other people, or was the former cabinet secretary trying to con the Polish, or were they all, or did they know, were they using the office of the deputy president to the knowledge of certain people in the office of the deputy president, or not to their knowledge, and so on? All that is yet to be discovered.
Okay.
But insofar as we know at the moment, we cannot pinpoint and begin to cast aspersions to say that the deputy president was involved. We know that they went to his office. But as to whether he had any knowledge or involvement is yet to be discovered. I could come out of this particular show and go and commit a crime just right outside this door. Are you going to say that Citizen TV was involved? No. No. It is until you have interrogated my actions to find out whether there was a linkage between Citizen TV and the actions that I committed of the crime after that. So that is important. And remember, this is not the first kind of conmanship we have seen in this country. And I think you know yourself the challenges that we have had in sanitary towels. Remember the issue of giving sanitary towels? The government pledged and put outside a budget and said that they would give sanitary towels to every child from class 5 up to class form 4. It was such a huge tender, it brought in such political forces to it that it was now taken away from the Ministry of Gender, where the women representatives were involved in, and where your ministry was involved in, and now taken...
No, I need to clarify. I am from the National Gender and Equality Commission.
So it was the Ministry of Gender, it was not you, sorry. Yes, thank you for the correction. And then, because of all the involvement in politics, eventually it was being moved to the Ministry of Education. So what we know in this country, as our president has said, corruption is a big problem in this country. And with corruption comes also conmanship. And with that, there is a lot of political interest. So this is what we should be asking ourselves, is that we should be demanding from the DCI to get to the bottom of this, so that we can begin to understand clearly, rather than start casting aspersions and completing the investigations ourselves. Can we allow DCI? I want to hear the voice of the DCI. I want them to make statements like they have made in the past about when things like this happen, and tell us this is exactly what transpired. Because as a Kenyan, I'm also curious and worried, just the way Nyokabi is saying, she's also worried that such things can happen. How is it that a serious business person believes that a military contract can be signed in the office of the deputy president? I mean, that is an impossibility.
Allow me to cut you. We need to take the views of Rosa Boy before we take a break. So you've been smiling. I mean,
no, I've been smiling because around this table nobody has accused the deputy president of having known anything. I think we're talking about his office. And if you go to the deputy president's office, you don't only have one waiting room, but these guys were ushered into the VIP waiting room, which is right next to the deputy president.
But that could be because of the stature. He's a former cabinet secretary, maybe.
Would you give me a chance to you know?
Yeah, carry on.
If I walked in there, if you walk into the deputy president's office, even if it was me, you just don't go straight. You know, there's a lot of, hold on, a lot of checks just to see, which is right.
Have you seen the footage?
Which is right. I gave you almost 2 hours to speak, so just give me 2 minutes only. So, which is correct, you know, just because of checking in terms of security, okay? So the fact that these guys were ushered right into that VIP, you know, they had special treatment. And coming back to political influence, indeed we've seen political influence sinking billions of shillings of the Kenyan people. We know the story of Aror, we know the story of was it Kimarer, we know the story of Itare, and guess what? All these three went to one Italian farm. There must have been an issue. Why was that Italian farm winning? Even when they had issues with one incident, they still won the tender with the next, you know? So political influence does influence tendering in this country. And eventually, it clouds performance, and it clouds completion of this project, and eventually the people who suffer are Kenyan people.
Honorable Rosa, we need to go on a break, but I want you to answer this for me as we take this break. The fact that we have not heard from the CS of Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, or of Defense,
CS of Defense,
Monica Juma, on a 40 billion fake arms scandal, taking the front page of the local daily on both dailies. The fact that we haven't heard from these two dockets, does that speak volume?
I think we've heard from that docket, except that it doesn't come from CS Juma herself. But the military has actually disowned and said they are not a party to that, and they know nothing about about any tendering of such magnitude. So we haven't heard from the CS, but we've heard from the docket itself.
Okay.
Yes. For me, I would put it like this. Whatever thing that happened, whether Deputy President is involved, whether he's not involved, since it was done in his office, and since it has been done by a former CS, for us as a country, it is shame. Even discussing it, it's a real shame, and we need to come out of this. I'm wondering who bewitched us.
Wow, bewitched us. There was an attempt yesterday that the lawyers of Rashid Echesa had pleaded with the court to bar politicians from making any utterances relating to the case in public fora after having complained earlier that the case was due to political persecution. But the magistrate is quoted as saying that there is freedom of speech and information in this country. Let us deal with what it relates with plea taking alone and bond as for now. So we in some safe space, just to say. So we take a short break. When we return, we'll be talking about matters education. Yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor George Magoha, was talking about universities and raising a question why you'd have Chuka University campus in Embu, where Embu University is also existent, but also talking about the quality of
PhDs and masters.
Indeed. So that conversation after the break.